and what he's been kind of testifying, what he's been thinking about testifying. Like, what is his position on testifying? Like, is he all for it with his new book coming out, or is he a little bit more reluctant, like saying like, oh, the Democrats are going to have to like subpoena me to get me to come in and talk?
Well, I mean, they wanted him when they were doing the investigation in the House, and he wouldn't testify unless they subpoenaed him, and the courts agreed that he should testify. And the Democrats said, well, that's going to take forever if the courts are involved. Now, with the Senate trial, he's agreed just point blank to come and testify so long as he gets subpoenaed. He's not going to fight it in the courts. So he seems to be more amenable to testifying. But of course, now the roadblock is the Republicans. And so it's not clear whether he's kind of hiding behind, the Republican Senate. He's trying to make it seem like he can be the hero, but he knows darn well that he's not going to end up testifying. It could be one of those deals.
Yeah, like where he's like has the Republican Senate safety net on his side there.
Exactly.
Would you say he's kind of like turned, in at least his public position, has shifted to not very much of like kind of a Trump subservient stance? Like he's not going to stand by Trump no matter what at this point. Was that fair to say about him publicly and the way he's going to behave publicly?
Yeah, I mean, I think he resigned over this matter, to be honest. So he's not happy with what the president did. And of course, others who testified said that Bolton called this a drug deal, So he's not at all happy with the president's conduct in this matter. And I think that if he does testify, he's going to tell the truth. He's going to say that. I just don't think that, as a loyal Republican, I just think, like you said, he's hiding behind the Republicans and hoping that he probably doesn't have to testify. So.
So I do want to get a little bit more about that. This book here, what's really saying. The president's statement, as described by Bolton, could undercut a key element of his impeachment defense, that the holdup in aid was separate from Trump's requests that the Ukraine, again, announced it was investigation. That's the key underline again there from the New York Times. Bolton's explosive account of the matter at the center of Trump's impeachment trial is really a incredible, if this does come out, if this does kind of see the light away, could be very, very big. He'll send a draft to the White House for a standard review process for some, for some current and former administration officials who write books. Multiple people, again, describe this account of the affair. Excuse me, I do have a little bit of a cough.
The Democrats really need a witness who spoke directly to the president and heard the president, say that he's really holding up this aid for investigations. I mean, Sondland kind of testified to that effect. Sondland believed that that's what the president really wanted, but the president told him on the phone that there was no quid pro quo, even though Sondland took that as a lie. But it's still not, direct evidence of the president saying the appropriate words. But Bolton has him apparently saying the appropriate words that the Democrats need in this investigation.
And I think it's hard to not have Bolton come in as someone who would lie about this for some reason, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know his character very much, but I think he's more an institutionalist. He's been in politics for a long time, and I think he knows how the executive branch is supposed to function, and he knows that Russia is a threat, and he's very opinionated about things. He's quite the hawk. I just don't think he's a toady, political toady for President Trump. And I think that's, in fact, why he resigned. He probably resigned over this Ukraine matter.
Yeah, I mean, make no mistake, I don't want to come out here being like praising of John Bolton, somebody who is incredibly like right-wing, never really met a war he didn't like, and this kind of move to not kind of spread the flow of really of the money where it needs to be to kind of keep things the way they are. Not saying that he obviously should have said this move, but the thing with John Bolton is you've got to really take into account some of his other motives. And like you said, he's definitely no political toady to Trump, but he was not without his, I think, motives through his time joining the White House. And it's going to be interesting to see what role he could play in this impeachment trial. And really, it was definitely, I think, very different from the role I think a lot of people really expected him to play in this presidency as someone who is more of a disruptor for the president as opposed to a disruptor for peace, which is the role I think he normally attempts to serve. So yeah, that is a pretty incredible thing. So he said that after the president's July phone call with the president of Ukraine, he raised with Attorney General William Barr his concerns about Rudy Giuliani, who was pursuing a shadow Ukraine policy. Yes, that's what he's trying to do, talk to Giuliani about this, and told Barr that the president had mentioned him on the call. A spokesperson for Barr denied that he learned about the call from Bolton. The Justice Department said he learned about it only in mid-August. And what I wonder is, what role does Barr play in this scenario?
Yeah, well, it's very intriguing. We don't know too much about Barr's role, but there's a few clues. One of them is that President Trump mentioned Barr's name a couple of times in the rough transcript of his call with Zelensky. And so it seems like Barr was also in the loop about what was going on. I can't imagine why Trump would tell Zelensky to have his people call Attorney General Barr about these investigations that he wants unless Barr was in on it. So, but, that is, at the moment, Barr is not, it's the president who's in the crosshairs right now, but it could come to Barr later. I think that the Barr story is certainly not over, and I think that Democrats are going to try to find more out about what his involvement was, and Pompeo's too.
So how is the battle of public opinion going here on this? It's really kind of been a big struggle for the Democrats to come out and convince really the public that like this is, or really get the public behind this, to really get them like pissed off in a way that they were for Nixon or for Bill Clinton or any of the kind of the past impeachments. And I think that's largely because like we're so polarized, and this is kind of an impeachment that like there's no real kind of crime about this. But how do you think the Democrats have handled this impeachment so far? Do you think they have gone about it the right way?
I think they've done a very professional job of it. The House managers I've been very impressed with. I certainly didn't watch all the coverage, but
it's a little hard.
I watched bits of it here and there, and I tried to watch Schiff's closing statements in particular. But certainly they were repetitive, just as the Republican senators complained about. But of course, they know that Americans like me are coming in and out and watching bits of the coverage, and so it's helpful if they can repeat the message over and over and over again and repeat the facts, so that Americans can be informed just as well as the senators. So, I think it's been professional. I think they've done a very good job. I think that if the nation wasn't so polarized, it would be a different story right now.
All right, let's kind of take a look here at the other side. Trump's defense team seeking to sow reasonable doubt about their claims. So let's take a look at their claims being outlined in here. What you're about to hear is some of Trump's lawyers. Glenn, unfortunately, will not be able to hear this, but I will do my best to kind of recap it after. So this is a little clip of them doing what the best they can do.
We can talk about the process. We will talk about the law.
This is Pat
But
Cipollone.
today, we are going to confront them on the merits of their argument. Now, they have the burden of proof. And they have not come close to meeting it. And the fact that they came here for 24 hours and hid evidence from you is further evidence that they don't really believe in the facts of their case. That this is, for all their talk about election interference, that they're here to perpetrate the most massive interference in an election in American history, and we can't allow that to happen.
This case is really not about presidential wrongdoing. This entire impeachment process is about the House manager's insistence that they are able to read everybody's thoughts, they can read everybody's intention, even when the principal speakers, the witnesses themselves, insist that those interpretations are wrong. I am not going to continue to go over and over and over again the evidence that they did not put before you, because we would be here for a lot longer than 24 hours. But to say that the President of the United States was not concerned about burden sharing, that he was not concerned about corruption in Ukraine, the facts from their hearing.
Yeah, so that's pretty much Jay Sekulow there and Pat Cipollone pretty much saying that, A, the Democrats are going political about this, and really seeking to turn accusations of wrongdoing back on the Democrats, insisting that there were innocent explanations for Trump's actions towards the Ukraine, saying, quote, they've come here today and they basically said, let's cancel an election over a meeting with Ukraine. It would be completely irresponsible, abuse of power to do what they're doing, to stop an election, to interfere with an election, to remove a president of the United States from the ballot. So that is that's the kind of the main Trump defense here that you're going to see on Fox News, you can see on the talk radio, you're going to see all over conservative media. And this kind of like the two-pronged defense of the Democrats are being political and there is an innocent explanation for all this. How's that hold up?
Well, I don't know. It doesn't hold up with me. It seems to me that they are just trying to distract from the evidence that the Democrats have accumulated in this trial, and just kind of pointing back at the Democrats and saying you shouldn't be having this impeachment trial so close to the election. Well, they probably wouldn't, except that the president is actually trying to interfere in the election himself with these investigations into his political opponent. So what do you expect them to do? So yeah, I mean, I really, I don't agree with any of these arguments that the president's lawyers are using to defend him. So I don't really know how it sits with his base. I suppose they agree with it, but I have a hard time.
Yeah, you can really kind of imagine that they're hearing also like completely different things than what we're hearing, because I mean, we're part of that media echo chamber can be so dense. Do you really think there is a deep need and worry that Trump could influence the outcome of the 2020 election again if he's not kind of put a stop, like his conduct is kind of stopped in some way? Like, do you think there's a need that he could go out and is doing some kind of operation to collect dirt on somebody somehow out there today? Like, do you think that's a real threat that we should be worrying about?
Well, absolutely. I mean, after he's acquitted of doing it already, what